And very, very happy and very, very honored to have Anant Kumar ji with us today. I have known him for several years, and that is the reason I requested him to be a part of this conference. He has served in general insurance industry for about 40 years. He's traveled widely, and social issues was one topic which used to always impact him. And, he's a very compassionate and a sensitive personality. So he has been informally involved in social issues, always behind the scenes. He has a very humble demeanor, but he is very, very knowledgeable. Currently, he's leading a retired life in Mumbai, but he has lectured in prominent institutes as a faculty, like National Insurance Academy, Pune, Institute of Management, Goa, National Institute of Banking and Management, Pune, training institutes of various insurance companies. So don't get carried away by the name insurance, because I know that when it comes to insurance, people, they start raising their brows. But he, from whatever I have known of him, is somebody who is a great patriot and a very sensitive and kind person who is active on social media. And he has been working on some social issues, behind the scenes, quietly, informally. That is why I thought that it is very important to listen to views of somebody like him. Yes, he's not a very popular name, but I think after this, he probably may become one. So welcome, Anant Kumar ji. It's very nice to have you in our conference, and I will pass the floor to you. Go ahead.
धन्यवाद अंजलि जी। ये पूरी तरह मेरा सौभाग्य है कि मुझे इस मंच पे आपने मौका दिया है और आपने जो विश्वास जताया है मुझ में, आशा करता हूं कि मैं उस पर खरा उतरूं। So Anjali ji, as you know, my topic is caste offensive in the West. So hello, here I am feeling very, very privileged on having been made a part of an august team of well-known international personalities, some of whom I keep following on YouTube. It is not fair to name just a few in a galaxy. So here is my silent namaskar to all of them. And a very warm good morning and good evening to all of you who have been so considerate as to spare your valuable time for listening to a novice like me. Thanks indeed, and let me start. See, we started dealing with the social issues in India in a focused manner only after we got our constitution, which was adopted on 26 November 1949 and implemented effective 26 January 1950, when we declared ourselves as a republic. So let me start with the preamble of our constitution. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. Now, my subject is about caste. So what is casteism? In my opinion, in simple terms, it is discrimination on the basis of caste. And one of the persistent criticisms of the Indian society is that we suffer from this malady. So let it be said right in the beginning, right here. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who drafted the constitution, was not a Brahmin. He was a Mahar, a Dalit, a member of the downtrodden class. He was an alumnus of the London School of Economics, as also of the Columbia University. His foreign education was sponsored by a Rajput king. Dr. Ambedkar was a man of letters. He did pioneering work with respect to the drafting of our constitution, so much so that he has come to be regarded as the father of the Indian Constitution. So, in free India, his caste did not matter, his abilities did. Now, there was a time in ancient history of India when there was something called Varna Vyavastha, dividing the society under different heads based on who went for Vedic studies and who did not. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra were the four Varnas. However, there was no concept of untouchability. There was this terminology Shudra, but that applied to people who didn't undertake a study of the Vedas. It was never ever mandated that a particular profession will be reserved for a person born in a particular Varna. In fact, there is a hymn in the Rig Veda which quotes an individual as saying this: I am a singer, my father is a physician, my mother grinds corn on stones. So in a given family, members could take up different professions depending on their respective choice and abilities. However, during the post-Vedic period, the class division became hereditary, and that is how the caste system took birth. Anyways, notwithstanding what the scriptures said, a time did come in our history when the Shudras started being treated as untouchables, mainly in the rural areas, and many ills followed from there. They were not allowed to mingle with others. They were asked to live in the outskirts on the periphery of the village, and many indignities used to be hurled at them, besides subjecting them to insults. Here, it needs to be clarified that caste divisions were not Hindu specific. I mean, today, India is majorly a Hindu country, and so our friends in the West might associate this caste phenomena exclusively with the Hindus. No, look at Islam. It is said that all Muslims are equal among themselves. However, fact is that there are 72 sects in Islam. And just by the way, ladies and gentlemen, they are all to be found in the so-called Hindu India. In fact, historians like Romila Thapar have written that many lower caste Hindus were lured to embrace Islam on the promise that they would be treated on par with all other Muslims. However, reality is otherwise. There are several sects and castes within the Muslim fold, namely Ashrafs, Ajlafs, Arzals, further divided into Sheikh, Sayyid, Ansari, Mirasi, Kasab, and even Mehtar. There is no inter-caste marriage among them. And above all that, they have this Shia-Sunni divide. Sikhs have their own caste hierarchy. For example, Sardar Bhutta Singh, once our Home Minister and Governor of Bihar, was a Dalit. Dalit Sikh, you said? Yes. Christians have several varieties, and they also demand special privileges for Dalit Christians. Go to the state of Jharkhand and you will find that lakhs of tribals have converted to Christianity. And there also we keep hearing of Dalit Christians. Followers of a certain church in India don't allow their women to demand divorce. Now, those who convert to Buddhism in Maharashtra are not known as Bauds or Buddhists, like all other Bauds or Buddhists, but as no Bauds. So they have created a new category, which is, I don't know, it is not on par with the other category. Otherwise, why did you need a new name? Now, not just across various religions and communities, the caste system unfortunately cuts across generations of various rulers too. During the centuries that the Muslims and Christians ruled India, through the Portuguese, Mughals, Britishers, etc., a lot of administrative rules and regulations were made, obviously. However, not any of them worked on uplifting the lower class. A community that did all the dirty work suited everyone just fine. Even during 1947, when the partition of India took place, quite a few lower caste Hindus were given shelter in Pakistani homes under the pretext of being kept safe. I mean, then it was just becoming Pakistan. It was only later that they realized that the only reason they were retained was because they were to be used to perform menial tasks and sanitation duties. That continues till today. You know, when the Pakistani agencies recruit sanitation staff, their advertisements generally make it clear that the vacancies are for non-Muslims. It is safe to say that the lower classes were viewed as resource only. In free India from 1947 onwards, successive governments have applied a multi-pronged attack against this menace. There is a dedicated Department of Social Justice and Empowerment to work for them. More specifically, there are provisions to provide reservations in jobs, educational institutions, promotions, etc. for those falling under the category of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. There is a national fellowship program for the scheduled caste students, and there are various other schemes for them. There are laws to apprehend and punish offenders. Examples are Article 15 of the Constitution deals with prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, or place of birth. The Scheduled Castes and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. Here, if charges are proved, the punishment can range from 6 months imprisonment to life imprisonment and even death sentence. Next, Protection of Civil Rights Act 1955 deals with offenses relating to the practice of untouchability. So on one hand, there are several provisions to uplift the underprivileged, and on the other, to punish those who violate the law in this regard. From time to time, laws enacted in this regard were fine-tuned and new provisions were also brought in. Going a little back to emphasize, in 1979, the Mandal Commission, the Socially and Educationally Backward Classes Commission, SEBC, was established under Prime Minister Morarji Desai, who incidentally was an upper-class Brahmin. The Commission's report recommended that members of other backward classes, they are popularly known as OBCs, be granted reservations up to 27% of jobs under the central government and public sector undertakings, thus making the total percentage of reservations for SC, ST, and OBC to 49.5%. Further, in 1989, the Prevention of Atrocities Act was passed. The main objective of this act was to prevent the commission of offenses of atrocities against the members of scheduled castes and tribes, to provide for a special courts for the trial of such offenses and for the relief and rehabilitation of the victims of such offenses and for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. This act was further amended in 2015 and then again in 2018 with a view to strengthening the act. The amendments include new offenses, expanded scope of presumptions, institutional strengthening, which includes establishment of exclusive special courts and a specification of exclusive special public prosecutors to exclusively try the offenses under the POA Act to enable expeditious disposal of cases, power of special courts and exclusive courts to take direct cognizance of offense, and as far as possible, completion of trial within 2 months, yes, just 2 months, from the date of filing of the charge sheet besides others. The mandate also recommends that MHA, that is the Ministry of Home Affairs, must make holistic efforts for sensitizing public authorities. Along with the Ministry of Education, the Home Ministry should create awareness through school curriculum to promote gender equality and eradication of the caste system at a pan-India level. It is not surprising that in the 2019 federal election, the BJP won almost 60% of parliamentary seats, that were reserved for scheduled castes and tribes. Now, human societies have existed for centuries in many parts of the world. They have had their own sets of societal rules, traditions, social norms, religious practices, etc., from time to time. Now, there is no way to undo or rectify them ab initio. There is no delete button in real life to obliterate things that were wrong in the past, especially the distant and the very distant past. Change often comes slowly, and change is showing now. How else does one explain that today the first citizen of India is not a Brahmin, but is a member of the scheduled caste? The Honorable President of India, Mr. Ramnath Kovind, is a Dalit who grew up in a mud hut in rural India. In India, the president is indirectly elected by an electoral college consisting of the elected members of both houses of parliament, the elected members of the legislative assemblies of the 28 states, and the elected members of the legislative assemblies of various union territories. On July 25, 2017, Mr. Kovind was sworn in as the 14th President of India. He was elected by the Electoral College with a whopping 65.5% of votes. Incidentally, majority of the MPs and MLAs who voted for Mr. Kovind were upper class Hindus, the so-called upper class Hindus, okay. Because we shouldn't keep talking upper class, lower class, etc. And not just the president, but also the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, belongs to the other backward caste, OBC. That means he's not a Brahmin. Currently, he is leading the country for the second successive term. Can India's detractors spare a thought to appreciate that our society has had no issues with the all-important Bhumi Pujan in Ayodhya being performed at the hands of a non-Brahmin? A man from the backward caste performed the historic Ram Janmabhoomi Pujan, and there was no uproar or protest. There was only gratitude, if one may say so. And I repeat here that the father of Indian Constitution, Dr. Ambedkar, also came from a scheduled caste. Look, our society has taken concrete steps to improve from within also. Great social reformers have arrived on the scene from time to time. Two prominent names come to mind. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, who helped abolish the sati system in 1829 and raised his voice in favor of widow remarriage, education of girls, as also abolition of caste system. Maharshi Dayanand Saraswati founded the Arya Samaj in 1875 and wanted to re-establish the Vedas. He advocated that Hinduism should return to its core values and not get lost in caste system and rituals. Great social upliftment has taken place in India, but it is a continuous process. It is a journey which should actually never end. But everybody doesn't move in the same direction. In Indian politics, caste and religion do play important roles. Now, there is a demand from certain quarters to conduct caste-based census. There are politicians who must have apparently calculated something that the world will comprehend only in due course. Imagine, on one hand, we want to abolish caste system. On the other, a demand is catching up for conducting census on the basis of caste. So if that happens tomorrow, we will know what caste does our neighbor, doctor, grocer, etc. belong to. Will it be a step forward or backward? But that, ladies and gentlemen, is vote bank politics for you. Now a word about the Red Brigade, because there is some mention of red axis. They have been in India for many years, but all their pontification about equality and equitable distribution of wealth and advocacy of a casteless society, etc., has not washed with the electorate. On the contrary, they have lost their citadel of West Bengal. In my opinion, they are viewed as a party which doesn't render wholehearted support to the country when needed. Years ago, Dev Anand made a movie called Prem Pujari, which had some anti-Chinese angle. Now that didn't go well with the leftists, and what did they do? They set fire to the theater which was showing this movie. Now, whenever there is friction between China and India, as we have lately seen, their spokesmen will come to India's popular TV channels and take ambiguous stand and somehow try to pick holes in the Indian stand and strategy. Their plan for several years has now been their stand against casteism and rural poverty. Just look at the scenario. In 1957, Jansangh, the predecessor of BJP, had just 4 seats in the Lok Sabha. Today, the left has already lost its citadel in West Bengal, and BJP, the successor of Jansangh, is governing the country. If you ask these guys, they will tell you how another party has won, but they have no clue as to why they have not been able to make a dent in all these years in spite of being early movers. No introspection. By the way, listen to this one, please. I'm sure most of you know this. As per a report released by the US State Department in 2019, the Communist Party of India, Maoist, has been listed as the world's 6th deadliest terror organization. Yes. Now, let us look at the West, from where all these condescending observations keep flowing now and then. In 1936, Jesse Owens, an Afro-American athlete, won 4 gold medals. What a stupendous achievement it must have been. However, during the onward journey of the American contingent from America to Germany, he was throughout made to feel that he was not equal to the other team members. He was made to travel in separate coaches, stay in separate hotels, and eat on separate tables. Thankfully, when he returned home, a felicitation program was organized for him, and one understands that he was asked to enter the venue from a separate gate. However, things have evolved, and today when the American Olympic contingent comes to the ground, we find that the Afro-American athletes are quite visible. America has, in fact, instituted an award for the best track and field athlete of America and named it after Jesse Owens. In Hindi, we say, "Der aaye, durust hai." When the West accuses India of practicing social discrimination, they forget that nobody can discriminate like one of their own has done in the last century. And I request your attention. Hitler had such an exalted opinion about his race and such low opinion about others, especially the Jews, that he kept them in subhuman conditions and had them killed in millions, and that too in a very brutal manner. Now, ladies and gentlemen, replace the word race by caste and see what picture emerges. Whoever accuses Hinduism on various counts should also look at themselves. It is a well-known fact that Americans and West Asian countries took Africans as their slaves, whom they bought and sold in the markets like commodities. In fact, Lincoln wanted to stop this practice, and what happened? He was assassinated. Today, the scene has changed, but the mindset has not. Otherwise, why was there a need for a movement like Black Lives Matter? Every society, community, religious group has had their flaws, but the challenge is to overcome those and march forward. Hindus have done this and continue to do so. No wonder India is a thriving society despite all its problems. Having said all this, caste discrimination is still a problem on individual levels. that need to be addressed. The problem, however, is consistently shrinking in size. In just 75 years of independence, members of the backward classes and communities are rapidly making their mark in the society. Their aspirations are being acknowledged and ways are being devised to empower them to realize their potential. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about other countries. In India's close proximity itself, Hazaras continue to be persecuted in Afghanistan. The fate of Uyghur Muslims in China is well known. The of Rohingyas in Myanmar continues to look bleak. In neighboring Pakistan, minorities continue to suffer and dwindle in numbers. An unfortunate example I would like to give is that of the late Dr. Abdul Salam. Now, Dr. Salam was a physicist from Pakistan. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for his contribution to the electroweak unification theory. He was the first Pakistani and first from any Islamic country to win a Nobel Prize in science, and second from any Islamic country to win any Nobel Prize. And yet his home country saw him only as an Ahmadiyya, as a non-Muslim or a backward person. In life, Dr. Salam was looked down upon and his work shunned in Pakistan. When he passed away, he was buried next to his parents' graves in Punjab, Pakistan. The epitaph on his tomb initially read, "First Muslim Nobel laureate." But later, the Pakistani government removed the word Muslim and left only his name on the headstone. The word Muslim was initially obscured on the orders of a local magistrate before moving to the national level. Under Ordinance 20 of 1984, being an Ahmadi, he was considered a non-Muslim according to the definition provided in the Second Amendment to the Constitution of Pakistan. Sadly, even in death, today Dr. Abdul Salam has not found any dignity. And all of us will remember the case of Mahershala Ali, who won an Oscar. And when he won an Oscar, it was a very natural reaction for a top Pakistani diplomat to tweet congratulations to him. But then that diplomat was hounded so much because Mahershala Ali was not viewed as a Muslim of the right kind. So the diplomat had to withdraw the tweet. Well, before I conclude, I would like to say that this should be a moment of reflection for all. A lot of noise has been made about caste discrimination in Hinduism. We must pause and think honestly. Is it all true? How much of it is true? Is casteism still a norm for Hindu society? Is it what defines Hinduism? Or is it an aberration? Is it possible that the world is falling prey to a narrative spun by some super lazy reporting by the Western media, coupled with inputs provided by dishonest academicians and ignorant social media propagandists? In any case, Hindus have been an ever-evolving people, and the pandemonium created by the rebel-rousers notwithstanding, the Hindus, all of them together, all of us together will solidly march ahead. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your patience.
Thank you so much, Anandji, for this enlightening lecture. And a lot has been said about caste. Kamlesh Kapoorji, she talked about it, and she talked about it from a very, what should I say, a spiritual perspective. But you have stated facts. You have given a lot of facts. So we are getting a holistic view of what this entire caste thing is all about. So basically, it's nothing but it is a tool that is being used to demean Hinduism. Yeah. So I was listening to your lecture. The amount of facts that you have quoted, I mean, nobody can deny that, that these things do not exist. So when Hinduism in particular is attacked, and when in particular they are being demean just on the basis of caste, we can always, quote these facts that you have brought forward, and then let people take a look at it. And sometimes I think it doesn't hurt to look at our own selves, before pointing finger to others.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of questions.
Please.
I understand that, we are dealing with caste, but, this problem has been there for quite some time. It's not like it has happened only now, it has evolved, it's been going on, and then it has taken various shapes and forms. So to the extent that our minds have kind of become conditioned with caste, okay? So do you think that there is a way that we could get out of this conditioning? How can we pull ourselves out of this mental conditioning?
See, first of all, let me tell you, everybody knows it, changing one's mindset is very difficult, very nearly impossible. But when these fax machines came, I read a beautiful two-liner. It said that with the advent of the fax machines, you can transmit any message from any one point on earth to any other point on earth within a maximum of 8 seconds. But then the message can take years and maybe centuries for traveling from outside that recipient's mind to inside his mind. So taking caste out of somebody's mind is a little difficult thing. And now, as you know, government has schemes, reservation, quota, etc. So many people are actually obsessed with it. Nobody will like to forget that he is this and falls in this or that category, because forgetting that means, he will be in danger of losing the benefit that is accruing to him by virtue of his caste.
I totally agree with that point, because I remember a few years back, when we were small and we were in India. We belonged to a certain community, and we were being told that, our community is going to get the benefits of OBCs, because, we probably may be descendants of OBCs.
Yeah.
Yes, and then they came to know that most of the bureaucrats and IFS and IS people, they belong to this particular community. It's like, okay, how can you grade them as, the SCSPs? But the thing is, I still remember, I was quite small, but some of our relatives were really, really overjoyed. They are like, oh, we don't care, just put us in that category because it'll be good for our kids. So this simply explains, and given by what you also had just mentioned in your lecture, that this has been misused so much, not only by the people, but by the politicians. It looks like they want to keep this matter alive because it gives them votes, right?
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Yeah.
So you mentioned that, there is no delete button that we can press in real life. True. But yes, we are seeing change. Like you said, Bhumi Pujan, you mentioned the Bhumi Pujan that is happening that happened in Ayodhya. And it is our own non-Brahmin, our honorable PM Modi ji, who conducted that, and nobody raised any questions.
Yeah.
Yes. So one more question. Caste is, sometimes they say that is synonymous with India, with Hinduism. And people are more familiar with change in religion, like a Hindu gets converted to Muslim or Christian, but nobody has ever heard of change in caste. Like, if I am a Brahmin, I can change to a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or Shudra. No, nobody is like, has ever heard of anything like that. But is it possible
to change one's caste?
Yes.
Well, maybe I knew it was coming. See, it's like this. In the ancient times, when this whole caste issue it's said to have started, people quote Manu Smriti. So I wanted to do some study myself. Then I came to know that there are several versions of Manusmriti. Something which has been written hundreds and thousands of years back. You can't find the what you call a mool pratilipi, the original script, etc. So anyway, whatever I have read, what I read is that it depended on one's profession. Like I quoted one Rigved hymn, which says that in the same family there is a singer, there is a doctor, and there is a lady who grinds stones. So at that time, it was interchangeable actually. But now, because of all this, straight jacketing, that this is, now castes have been named. Like, so let us take an example. There is a certain person who comes from a particular state, and he stands to get benefit if he belongs to a particular caste, okay? So he goes and gets a certificate from his village tahsildar. I'm not saying he is getting a false certificate. There is a method that you have to produce a genuine certificate. And once he produces that certificate, now you cannot change it. Like just now you gave an example that there was a time when your community, people were clamoring to get it included in this. But nobody will allow any other caste to come to their fold and, it will hurt them. As you say, most people from a certain community are occupying high position at a certain time. So the other caste, who are otherwise benefiting from that reservation will not allow anything like that to happen. So it is not possible to change one's caste. And it also, in simple terms, like, once it has been recorded, then how can you change it? And one thing I think I live for everybody to think about it. In India, when you go for a college admission or a school admission or office job or job, whatever, job application, therein many times you'll find columns. They will ask your religion. They will also ask your caste. So whether that practice can be discontinued, I don't know. So I leave it at that. It is for everybody to think.
Yeah, that's a poignant question, definitely. And one last question I have for you. You mentioned that change is showing now. We talked about PM Modi conducting the puja, our own honorable president, Kovindji, he is from the backward class. So what is the scene today with this? How do you see things changing? How is it happening?
See, I will say in one sentence categorically, yes, scene is changing. And I think it is changing quite fast. Now, after these castes have been bracketed, named, procedures have been laid down, then what I find, like, you know where you stand today, okay? In cities, things have changed a lot. Like I have worked in Mumbai for many years. And in my office, the lady who used to sweep the floor and clean places, she also used to serve food and water. But I can think of that only in a city like Mumbai or Delhi or some big cities or some progressive cities. But I think in villages, a lot of work remains to be done.
True. That's very true. And Anantji, I know that you have another commitment. We do have some questions from viewers, but what I would suggest that I'll share Anantji's email address, because he has very graciously agreed to come and talk about his views on caste, but he has another commitment and he has to go there. He's getting late. I know about that. So thank you so much. Please share your email address again, and I will share it with our audience. And please feel free to ask him questions directly. You can, I hope it's okay with you, Anantji, sharing your email. Okay.
I give you my address later on?
Sure. Yes, you can give it later on.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And I hope that this was just as enlightening for all of you as much as it has been for me, because Anantji has stated a lot of facts. So we understand that caste is not something which is just a part of Hinduism. it exists in all communities, in all other religions as well. Because yes, as human beings, we tend to, we are all different. We are not same. So societies, there's somebody who's rich, somebody who's poor. Society never remains the same. It's very natural to divide ourselves into different groups. And sometimes, we call them castes or whatever, any other terminology. And that is what has happened to Hinduism and to other religions also. But the only thing that we want to say that we should not be pointing finger at anyone else, because we have to look at ourselves. And of course, we are not completely excusing ourselves. We are not saying that these things don't exist. We are not being blind, but at the same time, we are also saying that there is a lot of improvement that has taken place. And we really hope that this improvement and this analysis is done for other communities, in other religions as well, not just, one religion, so that it benefits everyone. But above all, I just want to add one thing that one more time, what Kamlesh Kapoorji said, that Hindutva or Hinduism is way beyond casteism, because we talk about one Brahma that exists in everyone. So all human beings are equal. So let's close with that thought. Thank you so much, Anantji, for coming in this conference and sharing your views with us. And
thank you, Anjali. Let me express my thanks and gratitude to you and your organization for bringing me on this platform with many luminaries. As I said, I keep following them on YouTube, and it has been a very humbling experience to be a part of it. Thank you very much. I hope I have kept your trust.
absolutely, absolutely. It was beautiful, wonderful, very, very informative. And I'm sure the audience is going to share the same views. Have a good day. Bye. So I'll pass the floor to